And it's wild when people make the claim that just because you think men should take the lead on certain tasks, that they in some way devalue women. That's wild.
Okay.
Like some people do that, but don't scrub at us to say it's inherent to what we're proposing.
Okay, so this idea that men are naturally leaders, it's absolutely not the case, right? Men are humans, right? And humans come in wide different varieties, and a wide different perspectives, right? And inclinations.
Yes.
And certain people, right? Certain individuals among men, yeah, are good leaders, right? And certainly the same amount among women, as far as I know. Like,
No.
as we can't take a poll on this. That's difficult. But like
You should look at society. What do you mean?
to just say that, like, oh well, men are quote unquote leaders, and that women, oh, they have some sort of natural inclination to these other things, right? Whether it be homemaking, right, or even child rearing, right?
Yes.
Women don't necessarily like have that. Like
Yes.
the fact that like a woman has carried a
question.
child for 9 months,
agree
like
with you.
actually means nothing in her ability to take care of that child or her desire to take
agree.
care of that child, right?
100%.
So, okay,
But-
great.
but-
Then we're making
but
progress.
just to be-
I love it.
I don't think we are, because literally no one ever said anything about like something that was 100%, right? We obviously
I didn't
recognize there can be
say you
fact. Well, that's what you were implying.
I
so
said
then if
natural
then,
inclination. I didn't
well,
say
yeah,
100%.
sure. And again, you know that we're obviously using generalizations because we're talking about something that's relative to the human condition. So it can't just broadly apply to literally every individual. It's more about like a generalization. Like, so I got to ask you a very simple question. Do you think that agreeableness is a trait more commonly found in women? Yes or no?
It's not a yes or no question, because
It's
I
not?
think no. Well, let me say it right. So I think the answer is yes, but only because our society, punishes women who are disagreeable. That like their this personality trait does not exist in isolation, right? Women who are disagreeable make themselves heard, right? Well, they'll be told, well, you're being a bad bee, right? And then maybe men won't want you, right? Like, okay, all right, I guess I was trying to follow Fanatics.
Say whatever you want, bro. That's me. That's all.
but bitch, yeah.
I would say guys are
no,
fired
Jacob.
Oh, sorry, go.
When women are in positions of power, right? Like if you have a boss who is a woman and she tells you to do something, like the stereotype is like, oh, she's being a bitch, like she's being bossy, she's being mean. Like those are stereotypes. That's a negative trait. But when a man does it, it's fine.
They say niggas are being tyrannical. That happens
I was
too
gonna
sometimes.
say, Jacob, if you have a boss that's literally, if a man has a male boss that's like making him do things that he thinks is absurd and ridiculous, he's not going to call that man a douche or a dick or a tyrant or any of those
I'm
things.
not talking about things that are ridiculous. I'm talking about reasonable things.
Well, so then if it's reasonable, I don't think most people would just complain about it. I think most of the time, like, it's already implied literally in the statement that she's a bee, like that it's already implied that these are things that are like something that are unfair or unreasonable or unnatural, right? Like if it's like a boss that's telling me to do the things that I'm supposed to do, you'd probably
People
say it's
don't
a good
react.
thing.
People don't react like super logically to work requests like this. Sometimes people are being told to do like, they're like, hey, do this thing extra. Like you may have really good.
You just said extra. So we're saying again. I was talking about things that are natural, that are typical, that are like that we whatever.
Hey, organizers are clean this. Hey, organizers are clean this
like,
thing, or like you didn't do enough of a good job on this. Like go do it again, or stuff like that. And then people will have different reactions based on how they look at that person, how they look at that superior, right?
Okay, so so let me just make sure that again, because I don't want to get too obfuscated here. Do you think that people have those same negative attitudes that you just claimed, Django? Do they have those towards male bosses as well?
I want to say not as harshly towards males, no.
Okay. All right. Well, so yeah, so I would say that at least we do know that, and I do reject the notion that it's like literally only because of society. I think it has to do with I think some of these things are biologically driven. But yes, obviously, agreeableness is more common amongst women. And maybe if we get to some dream society where maybe we find some way of like completely eradicating all of the like societal implications that lead towards this, like maybe some of the Scandinavian countries have, then we'll see these outcomes different. Oh wait, we don't. We actually see that the outcomes are actually more along the lines of what we're talking about, that women are significantly more agreeable. So I think the idea that it's all society is crazy. So because of that agreeableness, that I would say is somewhat inherent to something natural. And again, this does not apply to every individual. You have cuck men. right? And that's what partially where I get my job from. So like I get that, like, but I'm not saying that this is like everyone. I think it's more about like generally, broadly, more commonly, you'll find like amongst
I fucking love
men to
Fanatic,
be
even when I'm disagreeing with
disagreeable.
them.
I actually that base point, I'm pretty sure that base point I agree on. I was just going at the how they react to a boss like asking you to do something. That's the only part I was trying to critique on, because I'm pretty sure you're right about the agreeableness. I was also going to say though, societally there are pretty big impacts in terms of like when a boy is going to do something, like when they're growing up, a boy or a girl, a lot of people will push the boy to do like to push harder through something and be more disagreeable than they will
Setting
with
them
girls.
up for the
But that
future.
ends up
Yeah,
hurting
that's
them.
true.
Yeah, and it ends up hurting girls in a lot of ways of being like negotiating for salaries is a big one.
100%.
And that can also, that's kind of what is hurting them in the long run, which I think is Fnatic is, or not Fnatic, that Prime is kind of talking about in how it shows up.
I agree.
Yes, which is why we tell women to be disagreeable in things like salary negotiations and things like that. So we can tell women to attempt to go against your natural tendencies of like sacrificing for a greater cause somewhere, or whatever we want to classify disagreeableness
It's not
as.
about sacrificing for the greater cause. It's about learning
It's
to be
sacrificing
disagreeable.
for conflict resolution. It is. That's
It's
I
teaching
don't
them
know
how
if
to
that's
deal with that type of situation. Yes.
no, but it's teaching them to. I don't know how we boil down agreeableness, but I think this is what agreeableness is. It's like being less confrontational for the sake of no conflict
Sure.
or something.
I get that. I'm saying, I guess what I'm thinking is that I don't think agreeableness is as strong of a characteristic as you guys are making it out to be. I think wait, so when I say
what does that mean?
Yeah,
When do we quantify it? What are you talking about?
I'm saying that I don't think it's as has as strong as an effect in like how it shows. I think the
You
society
talked about its
amplified
importance
that.
in salary negotiation.
Yes.
What do you
You
mean?
gave
That's what I'm saying. When I say strong, I don't mean like how important that is. How important that characteristic displays from. Sorry, I'm wording this so poorly. How that characteristic comes out in males versus females. I think it.
Oh,
that
you
that
don't think
difference.
there's a
I don't think
difference?
that different. No, I don't think that difference is as wide as you're making it out to be. That's all I'm saying.
Well, how wide are we making it out to be? Because I don't remember
You're
quantifying
making
it.
it.
I just made the statement. I'm sorry. I
thought.
thought I just made the statement that agreeableness is a trait that's more commonly found in women. I didn't quantify anything or qualify that at all.
The way
Literally,
that
that's all I said. And we
Yeah.
do know that
All I'm saying is that
agreeableness is more common in women. So
I would
if
be
you're saying to
surprised.
make this statement, it's not as much as you're saying. I need to figure out what are you talking about, because I never quantified.
Yeah, you didn't. The implication of how it sounded like it was a great difference. That's all I'm saying. And Prime was saying, hey, there's societal impacts that are widening this difference a fair bit. I'm pretty sure that's what he was saying. That's
Yeah,
what.
I don't.
And it
I
sounded
don't
like
know
he's
how
making it
great.
sound like a big thing.
I don't know how great the difference is, because I don't have any like studies or things to like enumerate it. All I'm saying is specifically that this is a trait that's more commonly found in women, and I think that this is biologically driven, and I think that this is obviously a trait that's necessary. I'm sorry, agreeableness is not a trait that's literally best for leadership, because leadership is, again, like one of the most important goals with leadership is decision making, and decision making has to deal with confrontation.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would.
Wow.
And
I would
I would
though
even
add
say,
that like.
Okay, Prime, you're laughing. Let me just make sure that we're clear here. Do you think that decision making is a particularly important role for leadership?
I think so, but like, if the implication of your statement is that women are worse at decision making, right?
they're more agreeable.
Because yeah, exactly, right. Because in your excuse is because they're more agreeable. Women are not worse at decision making. Women are not worse at leading. Our society punishes them if they have an opinion. Certainly, that is the case, right? They call them a bitch, and this is not the same, right, as calling your boss a fucking tyrant. Is that the best you got? Seriously, no.
No, we
there's a
just
reason-
parallel to
there's
what
a
y'all
reason.
said.
It's not a parallel because there's a reason why you reach for the B word, right? It's because it's a gendered attack against that woman.
It's because
right?
What
they
about calling-
use.
Like, that's
calling
like
a male
the
boss a
literal
dick?
basis of it all, right? Now, we've all literally all done it, right? Because it's like ingrained in our society. Because exactly
No.
that. Because it's so acceptable that we attack these women. I have to train
you
myself
think
because
people
when I have a
call
disagreement
women
with a
bitches on the
woman,
regular?
right? Like my
No, hold on,
my
Prime.
hold on. When I have a disagreement with a woman, natural inclination is to say that she's a bitch, right? And I've literally had to retrain myself. Hey, that's not cool, right? There's all kinds of other names. There's a whole world of names I can call this person,
What you
right?
just did,
But I'm not gonna do that. Sorry.
what you just did is beautiful, but it's disheartening to me that you don't understand what's at play. This is the Scandinavian study. Sociologically, we reinforce ourselves to be more agreeable as men than we actually are. That's why the data in Scandinavia was the women are even more agreeable or the men are less agreeable when you remove the societal barriers. Our societal barriers make us more
I
civilized,
don't accept your
which
premise.
makes men give up disagreeableness. It makes women give up less agreeable.
Hey guys, Scandinavia is a region of the world where sexism has been stomped out, right? We're all
Nobody
those,
said that. Wait, nobody said
okay, so then like it doesn't matter. So okay,
engage with what I
great.
said.
So then it doesn't matter, right? So like because that has not the case, right?
Brian.
Then it actually doesn't matter. Then why are you using
Brian.
Scandinavia as an example?
Okay, let me explain because maybe I misspoke. I'll take it as time I misspoke. So I'll restate again because you said, why are you using Scandinavia? Okay, what you're talking about are external forces like our culture forcing women to be in these roles. So what I'm showing you is that if you go to countries that have less of these external barriers, the difference is magnified, which means that it points to our culture is suppressing men's disagreeableness and all of that type of stuff.
As if repressing women is something that's unique. Was it to American culture? To
I never
Western
said it was
culture?
unique.
Oh, it's not. Okay, so it's all around the world. So I don't know why Scandinavia. Why Scandinavia is the point? You're saying like it's different. No, like unfortunately, repressing women is fucking universal, almost universal.
So we do agree. We do agree that oppression is worldwide, but I think the point is trying to say, so since we know that oppression is worldwide, how do we test its effect? So let's look at areas where there's less oppression and then see if these outcomes that we're trying to create some sort of causal link, then if we can see that if there's a correlation here, right? So in other words, if we're saying this is what causes X is what causes whatever Y outcome, and we're saying, okay, let's look at areas where X is less prevalent. Is the Y outcome less prevalent? And so then if the Y outcome is more prevalent, then it sounds like X is not the cause of Y, number one. Number two, you made the statement that we were talking about, like, that we were making a gendered attack whenever we reach for the B word. And I don't think that it's necessarily about making a gendered attack. The reason why we use that word is because the dog is literally the most domesticated animal in the country, in the United States of America. And so when you look at the way that female dogs act towards their puppies, this is where this thing kind of originated from, then this is where you end up like, there's like this very raucous, combative way that like these female dogs can act towards their puppies in situation, and that's where that thing originated from. Do I think it's a positive thing? Absolutely not. Clearly, it's a negative slur. But the idea that it's like, oh, we're just only reaching for this word, it's just that's the most common reference that we have. Furthermore, we also do use all sorts of male gendered slurs. I guess I could probably just think off the top of my head and try to come up with a bunch of them. But very often the male equivalent is dick. We call someone a dick, right? Like, and that's typically something that we would say, oh, this person is overly aggressive or overly douchey or so on and so forth, right? So like, it's not like the gendered attacks only go in one direction. They're both sided.
Okay, so I'll respond. So sexism isn't some sort of uniform thing, right? And we can say that this culture, and though we use language this way, but it's improper, right? Where we can say this culture is like less sexist. Like, what does that mean? Now, that's something we'll say, but like, what does that actually mean, right? Sexism comes in different forms, and it's ingrained in our society, like human society, in so many different ways, right? That's like literally invisible to us. So so the reach that you're doing, right? So I gotta engage with Fanatic what they said, right? So Fanatic is saying that I'm literally trying to. Give me a second, I'm trying to. So like you're saying, right? If we're testing for X, right, and the second society has less of X, right? We're seeing what the difference is in the result. Am I correct there? Is that what you said, Fanatic?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes. So, but what is if X is sexism here? What is less of, right? So, women maybe in those countries, women in those countries might have like more roles in like government, right? Like, and that's which is leadership, right? There you go. But like, they might have more roles there, in those situations. But it doesn't mean that because outside in their professional lives, they're allowed to. It doesn't mean that inside, like in a relationship, in their private spaces, they aren't given the same messages, right? I'm not making a claim one or the other because I actually don't know.
Yeah, but that's
like,
specific. No, I just want to help you. That's specifically what the point of the study was. They came up with and I can't tell you exactly what they are. I used to know them off the top of my head, so I'm actually pissed
Okay.
right now. They came up with identifiers for identifying culture that embraces sexism, such as pushing women out of these fields and all of that type of stuff. So they came up with ways to identify what sexism is, and then they tested that across multiple societies, and they looked at legislation in multiple societies, and then they determined based off that view, this culture is far less sexist based off people who do this for a living, sociologists who try to identify what sexism is at a technical level. They use those technical indicators to show that this culture, and these are left-leaning sociologists, by the way. So these people did these studies, and they determined that this culture is less sexist than American culture, and that in those cultures, it was more pronounced, the differences that are personality based.
So I'll have to see this study, because I'm making emphasis on some random study I've never even heard of. So I'll have to see the study and take a longer look at that. But in the end, like if they're judging on legislation, again, I haven't seen the fucking thing, but like they're judging just on legislation, right?
No, not just on legislation. It was one of the technical indicators.
Okay, so I'll have to see the study. It's hard for me to engage with it, like to actually take a good look at that study. But that's fair enough. And then okay, I'll just like address Fanatic's other 3 points, and I want to hear from everyone else. Bitches, yeah, we brought up the whole thing about bitches. Oh, and we use it because female dogs are like, was it like disagreeable or like have some sort of a relationship with their young, and that's where it originated from. Who the fuck cares, right? The reason why we use it now, right, is a gendered assault on women, right? So like, it may have started that way, but like as language progresses, right? Language progresses in a myriad of different ways, and like for instance, when we're calling a man a bitch, right? What we're doing, right, is trying to rob him of his masculinity, right? Like you are now a female, and being female is bad, right? Like that's a worse state than being a male, right? Isn't like a neutral thing. Oh, you're have more a feminine characteristics, right? And that's fine, right? You can either be masculine or you can be feminine. There's no big deal if you switch between the two. No, it's a problem, which is why people react badly when you call them a bitch. Why I would never do that to any of you, right? They would react badly because you're robbing them of that masculinity. So yeah, I don't care about like oh yeah, originally it was because of the female dogs have a certain treatment of their kids, and then finally, the word dick being the same as bitch, right? It's not quite. I mean, I think that's like probably your best response to me so far is that one, but I would say that bitch has a more toxic space in our environment, right? If you're ranking these things, right? N-word at the top, right? Bitch somewhere below that, and then dick way below that. That's where I would go. But that's my personal look at that. All right, I'm done.
Really quickly, again, it's not just that like, oh, we're just doing it because it's gendered. It's specifically pregnant dogs are significantly more aggressive. Like the hormones in a pregnant dog, specifically, I just Googled it to make sure because I always knew this was the case, but it's better just to do it. Yes, pregnant dogs can get aggressive. The gestation period is much shorter than humans at around 2 months. During this time, unusual behavior is common, including, and even the most placid and loving dogs can exhibit agitation during gestation. So like that's why we have like the whole like that word is because specifically like this, like when when pregnant dogs pregnant dogs are significantly more aggressive, and literally before like it became an assault or attack on women, this word was literally just the scientific word for that, right? That was a name for a pregnant dog. It was the B word. So like that's where this association is, where with people getting aggressive. It's not like that crazy of a reach. We obviously understand all the connotation and negativity behind that. We can I don't know why we like try to look at these things as simply as just saying it's in a bubble. And lastly, I mean it really does go to say, if in like just looking at just basic freaking equations, if x equals y, then 1/2 x equals 1/2 y. So if x being freaking oppression to women equals y, this specific outcome, and we're saying, hey, here's less oppression to women, right? Like then that means we should have less of this outcome. It's really crazy to me that we would like be simple-minded enough to look at this thing as reductive as, if x is present, then y, right? Like that doesn't matter. Like you would, because 2x is 2y, 3x is 3y, right? Like this is just the way math works. So if we're saying that oppression to women results in this outcome, the idea that we're trying to show you, like we're taking studies to consider where there's a less of an occurrence of this thing, and you're trying to say it doesn't matter. If any of it is present, then none of this stuff matters. It's freaking reductive as freak.
Yeah.
Okay, the most reductive thing that was just said is equating sociology to math, right? And if that's what you're doing, right?
But he said if x equals y.
Half of x is.
Wait. You're aware that it has to be mathematical, right?
No,
you're
it's not mathematical.
Your statement is mathematical. No. Your statement is mathematical. You said due to oppression, outcome exists. So you're saying that as we increase this thing, a certain outcome will also be increased. That's what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying, because I wouldn't be saying something as stupid as that. I wouldn't do that, right? I leave that up to other people in the panel. No, sociology is not math. Sociology is not math, right? So like,
this is really bad.
We like humans, right? Hold on. Let me finish. You want to know?
No, because you're running away from the question.
Is not math, right? There's no like direct.
Can I ask you a question then? Can I ask you a simple question?
When I'm done, you can. When I'm done, you can.
Run away from the question.
When I'm done, you can. I will answer your question when I'm done, but not until I'm done. So wait till I'm done. Thank you very much. Okay. So it's not a simple input as in 5 plus 5 like equals 10, right? So 5 units of sexism plus 5 units of racism equals, right, how black women are treated in society, right? Like that's not how that works, right? So to say half equals or half of sexism, whatever that would be, right, equals a different result on the other hand, like that you could measure 1-to-1. You can't. There's no way. It's like impossible. You can't do that with social. That's why it's very hard to measure. That's why like I had to see the study to try to understand. I can't. It's hard to engage with the study. But like
that's my fault.
To say,
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used numbers at all. That's my fault.
Okay,
like,
great. And then finally, no one cares about. No one knows or gives a crap about the behavior of pregnant dogs, right? Like we use the word as a gendered assault. People aren't thinking in their minds, because
talking about where it came from, the etymology.
Hormonal. That's why I'm using this. Fuck.
Wait, we're talking about the etymology and why it came to existence. But I want to ask you a really simple question, because you said things. You said that due to the oppression of women in our culture and wanting women to repress their feelings of disagreeableness, you said that leads to women wanting to be in these more agreeable roles. Yep. So what I'm asking you is, if we remove all of the sociological reinforcement of oppression of women, do you think that women will be able to naturally live more disagreeable or not? So do you think if you reduce this, that this other thing will increase? Mathematical.
No. That's different. Reduce, right? Like is different from eliminate. So if you're saying if we had a world where we eliminated sexism.
Oh, he said reduce. He said reduce.
No. You said eliminate. You said eliminate.
I said reduce. I said reduce.
Okay, so
I said reduce every time.
Okay, if you're reduce, right? I think it would have an effect, but like you can't say like if you have half as much sexism, you'll have half as much negative.
I want to make sure you understand the question that I asked you. This was the simple question. If we reduce the sociological factors that you think negatively impact women, will we have women that can live more freely in their disagreeableness? That's the question I asked you as succinctly as possible.
But it's not, because it's not a simple question.
That's cool, but I just want to know your answer. I understand it's not. I understand that it's not simple, but I want your
but
response.
because it's too, like, the answer you're asking is too reductive to give my proper feelings on the situation. So I would say, like, if there's less bigotry in the world, then we would expect better outcomes, right? Or at least different outcomes, right? But
I'm not asking about
on,
outcomes. I'm not asking about outcomes. I'm asking about a specific thing.
Okay.
I asked specifically about women being able to live disagreeably. So I said, if we reduce the technical sociological factors that you pointed out that you think causes women to have to flee from their disagreeableness, if we reduce those factors, do we think more women will be able to live disagreeably?
That's what I was trying to say.
Let's get back to Cam
Newton. The same
Newton.
thing I was trying to
Let's
say.
get back to Cam Newton.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, I guess. The simple answer, yes.
Cool.
Okay. Cam Newton's a dick. Let's go back to that. Cam Newton's a piece of shit. Fuck Cam Newton. Fuck his upbringing. Fuck his family. Or I mean, it's like parents. I mean, nice kid.
Jesus Christ!
I don't know anything about his kids.
I like how you said, "Wait, I didn't mean the rest of the family, just the
parents, like the parents."
Yeah.
I don't want to bring his kids into this situation. But yeah, fuck Cam Newton. So and we can go down all the ways, all the reasons why we should.
I
Cam Newton
wanted to ask a question about the study. I don't know if you guys would know this. Is it possible that
I don't want to go too deep in the study
Well,
that we haven't seen.
Wait,
and like we haven't.
Django, you got to keep up. We're leaving that. We're going back to the Cam Newton thing. We're past that. We can discuss that later if you want. But like we're on the Cam Newton thing again.
And seriously, send me the study. I would love to see it. Maybe yeah. So thank you. Okay, yeah, Cam Newton. What else do you want to say about him and how terrible he is?
So I guess it really does boil down to this. Like I mean, I do think that there is merit to the idea that, like, men typically, even if you say that it's patriarchal or aggressive or whatever, repressive, whatever the freak you want to say, this is what men want. So when he's saying, like, yeah, you can keep all that bad bee energy, and yeah, you're gonna be single, or when he's saying that, like, yeah, like, men want to lead, and so then when he's saying, like, yo, like, you can do all of that, but then you're not gonna be whatever, like, then he's saying, like, this isn't like good. It's not a good thing. I mean, I think I can agree with that statement, while also still recognizing that, again, if they choose to live that way and they want to specifically look for men that are feckless enough to be led in that way, to be like henpecked men, then that's their choice. Like, and that you can choose to do so. But like the idea that is that the best, I don't think for most cases it is the best.
Okay. Brilliant. Before I respond, I've been talking a lot. Fanatics giving me a perfect opening here, but I want other people to jump in. And if they have something, maybe they can jump on that opening that Fanatic gave. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the present. Anyone else? No? Okay, then I'll do it.
I literally blanked out, so.
Okay, Fanatic. Is it that men are told that or men like naturally want these women, right, to be passive, and that they want to lead, right? There's some sort of natural inclination, right? Not all, yeah, I agree, not all, even within your context, not all, but some sort of natural inclination, right, to lead and to want passive women, or is society telling them? Because this works both ways, right? On the other side, men are getting messages, right, as to what they should be, like from people like pieces of shit like Cam Newton, right? Maybe from people like that, right? They're being reinforced that this is the way that a family should be, right? Like Cam Newton's father apparently reinforced. Yeah, right? I mean, fuck that guy. This doesn't exist in the vacuum either. So we can't like necessarily like tease that apart and say, oh, well, a lot of men, like you took a poll. I'm sure if we took a poll, then you would find the results that Fanatic is saying, right? That a lot of men want this, right? Maybe even the majority. That's a possibility. But our society, every step of the way, is saying that should be the case. And then Fanatic gave me that gift. Thank you for that. Calling the men who don't want to lead, right, or be led by their wives. Let's say that feckless men, right? He insults them immediately, right?
Henpeck, cucklord, feckless men.
Exactly. That's it.
Oh,
because if you're that type of guy, right, then you are less valuable, right there. That
I agree.
Insults you, right? Exactly.
I'm making that statement.
There you go. I win.
Fuck his base,
I win.
yo. Fuck his
Okay.
bro.
Go
All
ahead,
right, all right.
Smooth.
So listen, real quick. All right. So even in that regard, okay. The thing is, a lot of men's behavior is a reward based relationship. Okay. The truth is, a lot of women want the men to lead. They want you to choose a place to date them. They want you to choose like actually like lead, go out there and like be ambitious and actually have a job and have this other project that you're working on. They want you to be ambitious. They want you to lead. You see it every day. Every day. It's literally encouraged behavior, because if it wasn't encouraged behavior, men would stop doing it. Would stop doing it. They would literally just quit. They'd be like, okay, well, I can't do that. So I gotta do what I gotta do to get where I need to get. You know what I'm saying? They want to be in a they wanna, you know what I'm saying, mess with these women. It's literally women go for the guys that are like that. They literally in
I
droves.
have a question.
Yes.
How do you not know you're not being manipulated to think you're leading?
Oh, I'm not saying that we're not. So here's the deal. I think that one, I don't. You can easily manipulate some weak-minded people into thinking that they're leading when they're actually, just the woman is leading. I think that can happen. Two, I'm not even denying the fact that there aren't any biological things that have I'm sorry, that there aren't societal implications that have like led towards people wanting this. But I would say that those societal implicate, like a lot of our society is formed around like biological things, right? Like the reason why men worked and women didn't was because of like the like pregnancy and things like that. Like in a hunter-gatherer society, that's always going to be the fact that like because of the fact that there's like a portion in time where women can't work, and because of literal like biological differences from going through testosterone as a male, you're going to have certain advantages when it comes to like hunting and gathering. Obviously, we're not hunting and gathering now, but because of these like society things, we can obviously see a correlation between going out and work, going out and providing, and the woman making the home and rearing the children. So like all of these things, like we can get where they originated. And so I would say that society has continued in that vein, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. We still recognize, like on average, women need X amount of weeks off for birth. Like California, like has like a large amount, like one of the largest in the country, of maternity leave and things like that, because we recognize that women sometimes can have like really strong complications. There might be sometimes where you have complicated pregnancies where they need 6 months off of work. 6 months off of work. If you're the sole provider in your family and you can't work for 6 months because you decided to have a child, now you have to make a choice between having a child, which is a risk to literally your survival, or actually making sure that the man is a provider where you never have to worry about those things, right? And so there's all of these things that like society has like led us to. And while we can say, yeah, so it's reinforcing these ideas, I think the ideas that they're reinforcing are biologically driven, and it makes all the sense in the world. Until a man can nurse a child from his tit, like it's gonna need to be after having a child, even after, like even if when you get past the pregnancy, the rearing portion of it still requires a woman. It's absolutely necessary. I mean, obviously you can do formula, but we know that the outcomes for like formula raised children as opposed to nursing is significantly worse. And formula is literally something that we had to come up with as an alternative for specifically cases where women couldn't nurse, or for specific cases where women have to go to work and things like that. Like we've literally come up with this like facsimile alternative, which is not literally the best. So all of these things are biologically driven, and this is why men want these things.
With the proper hormones, men can lactate.
Come on.
You actually can. I don't know what to tell you. That's
You really didn't answer. I mean, you answered my question, but then you went on. But okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't like when people just throw around the word sociological, because everything that Fanatic said, these things have biological impulses that are feeding them. And like the fact that we think that men just woke up one day and were like, I want to construct reality this way, and there weren't biological urges for men and women to socially reinforce all these things. It's just wild. It's wild. It's like an infinite malleability argument, which is just absolutely not true.
I think also, man, like the statement that like, when like men can lactate with the right hormones and all that stuff. I really do feel like I empathize with the women who feel like they're being devalued in a specific way, because like it really does. It seems to me that like, yes, the idea that like we've always valued women for the things that they can do, right? Like and like people keep trying to like equate these two, like women can do what men can do and so on and so forth, and that never was the point. It was always that women had all of this value because of things that men could not do, like that men were not naturally inclined to do, like. There is a reason in a society to have human-based valued decisions. Like that's absolutely essential, right? And women are significantly better at those kind of decisions. And guess where you need human-based value decisions? rearing children. This is something they are just naturally better than us at, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they can't have value elsewhere. Like, obviously, society's been like reshaped in a way to where like you don't need like most jobs don't require brute strength. So it's not that they can't do these jobs, but then again, you are making a choice between doing the jobs, being a career woman, and like rearing your children. These things do have negative implications on them.
So
Like, women have valuable rearing, like the ability to create a child is something that's one of the most miraculous and amazing things on the freaking planet. That's what makes women so freaking special. That's one of the things that makes women so special. Women lead with their hearts. Like, that's how you can pierce through and control a man. It's incredibly important. This is what men value. Women are actually amazing. I don't know why we keep trying to do everything where we're like diminishing everything until like everything can be a woman, when the woman's value is incredibly important. It's freaking nuts to me.
They lead with their hearts.
And we're doing this at the goal of inclusion.
They lead with their hearts.
women,
Yes.
This is like
And good women,
ridiculous. This is like
I'm sorry, I should have
sad.
said good women. I should have said good women lead with their
Yeah,
hearts. That's
no,
my bad.
exactly.
I didn't
Yes,
get the call.
devalue the rest. I get it. No, exactly.
Yes,
What I've been
yes, I
saying.
do.
Yes.
Actively
I do. In our
devalue the
relationship.
rest. So,
We can-
like, I thank Gambit and Fanatic
Hold on, wait.
and Smooth for their.
If you can assign negative value to certain traits, we can as well. And we have a difference of opinion, so we're going to assign positive or negative
No,
traits
no,
to
no.
different things.
I'm agreeing with you. Society does apply negative and positive values to these things. That's why we have the world that we live in right now. The fact that Fanatic can call a man feckless for not wanting to lead, right? Yeah, it's because we as a
accurate
society,
You agree, right?
we as a society put positive, negative values on there, right? And so it turns into, so it's not an even playing field, right? So women and their personality traits are like, we are socialized, right? And society tells you what are positive traits, what are negative traits, right? And we try to stamp out negative traits, right? For instance, like, if you happen to be homicidal, that doesn't work, right? So we try to tamp that down, your homicidal urges. But for women, if you happen to want to, which is a good thing in that case, right? But it's not but the point is not even playing field. We'd have more murders if we didn't tamp down on people's homicidal urges, correct? We'd have more dead people, right? So agreed. So we'd have more women who led more women who wanted to lead, right? And wanted to create that kind of a household, maybe a partnership household, rather than like a leadership follower household type of situation. Yeah.
So wait, but this is one thing. It's okay to say people can live differently from the norm, but you also got to deal with the consequences of that. If you become I don't like how in these conversations we try to prescribe the opposing opinion as just as equal, when in real life what happens is a lot of those women die alone, and that's not a good thing. So like, when we ignore what's actually happening to people, people becoming like single parents and stuff.
Thank you for clearing my point constantly. I really appreciate the help.
That's my yes. If you think that we should, if you think that I should get on here and advocate for situations that lead to the destruction of women for a virtue signal,
right. They should
I'm
comply.
never gonna do that.
That's right.
I'm never
gonna
comply
comply and shut the fuck up. I agree. No, that makes sense. Go ahead, Smooth.
So look. So listen. So when you ask women en masse after being pregnant, do they want to work? You know what I'm saying?
They say no.
Afterward. They always say no. Like, it's
no. Prime is telling them to shut up and go to work. I'm saying shut up and go to work.
Ridiculous amount percentage. So look. So no. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. They don't want to work. Guess how they end up not working? Having a man perform the leadership role of providing. If the man does the leadership role of providing, she can then get her outcome that she wants.
Smooth.
Children.
Smooth. You're forgetting how much of a capitalist Prime is. He's like, no, get those women out of the household, put their kids in daycare, and get their ass on the 9 to 5 and make this money. That's what Prime is. Like, what you want to do, that natural inclination to be with your kid for like a few months or maybe a year after they're born. Fuck that. Get your ass in there to work. That's
my
what
man
Gambit.
Prime is a
Gambit. True capitalist at its sense.
I love Gambit. Smooth, finish your point so I can tell you how wrong you are. But yeah, finish that point.
To the chat, there's already studies done on the question that I just proposed. You can literally just type that into Google.
What was the
What's
question? What was the question?
The
Do
question
women want to work after they have kids?
Oh,
after they're pregnant?
yeah.
It's literally, it's already been done 100 times. And the answer is no. Resoundingly.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Just want to raise kids.
Yeah.
Have you given birth?
Exactly.
I mean,
Like, and after you push
but-
someone out of your fucking vagina, like, do you want to work?
Well,
I
but
don't
Prime
know.
is telling you to get your ass to work.
That's not what
He
Prime is
doesn't care
saying.
about that.
That's
He
not
doesn't
what
care
Prime is
about the
saying.
complications you have after birth. Get
That's
your
not
ass
what
in there and
Prime-
work.
No,
Hey,
because you're
Jay.
confusing a few things. Smooth. You're confusing a few things here, right? One, Jay Cook is exactly on point, right? Yes, like childbirth is extremely medically taxing, right? And the fact that we oftentimes our society does force women back to work is a travesty, right? Because it's just like if you had a busted up arm and leg, right? You got in an accident, right? You suffered severe trauma. I wouldn't say, hey, get back to work, right? I say heal up. That's important, right? I would tell the same, like pregnancy is a physical trauma. This is why some women die in pregnancy. It's a severe trauma, right? So there's that. That's one point, right? And so we shouldn't force women back there. And then two, there was a natural inclination, yes, of women to want to take care of their kids, right? Right? To stay home and take care of their kids. But
Yes.
men also want to do that. Okay? That's why we're like moving to this idea of parental leave, right? Where men who also want to get to know their kids, right? Spend time with that bonding moment, right? At that critical period, they want to do that too. We're creating a society because there was a point in time. There's a point in time, and I'm almost done. There's a point in time when society, right, completely devalued men interacting with their kids. At least Western society did, maybe, and actually some Eastern societies too, from what I hear, and devalued men like doing that child rearing, right? And so men would just not interact with their kids. They were told you shouldn't, right? And so you had like the fathers who were there, right? And by providing, yeah, they were there, but like they weren't present with those children, right? Now we're creating a space because of feminism, thank you, feminism, right? Where men can feel safe to say, yeah, I actually want to hang out with my kids. I want to love my kids. I know my man Gambit has kids, right? And I know he loves his kids. I know he hangs out with his kids. I know he does all those things, right?
I want to tell you something
and I'm almost
about
done.
that.
I'm almost done. I want to hear what you have to say. So we're creating that space because men also have that inclination. They want to do that, right? And then some people want to go back to work afterwards, and some people don't, right? They have all kinds of preferences, but none of these preferences, even then, right? Even with those natural inclinations that I'll admit right there, exist in a vacuum, right? Because you are a worse off woman if you decide I'm gonna be a career woman. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna focus on doing that. Than like necessarily staying home and taking care of my kids, right? You are less than as a woman. Society tells you. So none of this exists in the vacuum. I'm done.
Yeah, so I don't think that they're less than. They're just less likely to find a mate that also wants that configuration, and that doesn't make them less than. That just makes them incompatible with what a lot of other people want. And that's not a positive or negative on either side. That's just is what it is. But anyway, I think there was a study done on parental leave in men and women in similarly shaped positions, and the men on average took less time of parental leave than women, even if they were given the same options. So it seems to be that there's something about men that's like, yo, I'm gonna go get back to work and get this check. And women, even though men love their kids, like you said, just as much as women do, men seem to be more okay with, okay, I'm gonna let my woman handle this. I'm gonna go back to work and I'm gonna make this money.